Oops. What was it? The my last state of residence. I'll just say, yeah, I was in Michigan actually. Family came from there, and part of them founded the state of Michigan. I guess one could say 1830, 40, something. I don't know. So I lived there for a minute. Now I'm down in Florida temporarily, and I'll probably vote for Pres Don to make the liberals, melt down. Um, but uh, what? Yeah, back to solidarity though. So, um, yeah, I mean, my whole experience. I actually, friend of the family, helped get me a job with Labor Coalition for Public Utilities. That's what I started off in Chicago. And, people were impressed with the title. I was like director of research, but basically what was it? The Illinois Federation of Laborers, led by the crooked IBEW local, which had a contract with ComEd, the electrical company. They were bribed, basically to defund us. Well, among other issues, but whatever it was, like I started in August, and the organization was dead by the spring. But that was connected with United Electrical Workers. And what then? Yeah, so there are real people, real Stalinists. In fact, some of my good friends, Jack, he's dead now, Jack Spiegel, and Ruth Levatova, his wife, friends of mine. They were, boy, 90 plus. And when my boss, the director of LCPU, died, Jack and I and Ruth went to her service, and the feds were there snapping our photos, and I was giving the feds the finger. Yeah, I knew a lot of the old communists, from back in the day. They were still in the party. Yeah, and then, I knew Frizzo before they went liberal. Those activists, and who else? We had, well, and, groups like, many of our members, I guess, back in the day, helped to start groups, I'll just say in the reform movements in the unions, to try and return power to the rank and file. And, some of those people were very dedicated for decades. And, so there was a reality there of, basically most of these people, they were right-wing Shachtmanites, so different political tendencies. Now, did some of those, whatever, people later on, this Travis stroke, or other strokes, were they CIA assets? I don't know that I call them agents, but, assets at least. Yeah, one of them I can think of, yeah. And then another one, he was the director of, for a while, of Labor Notes. And, they basically, the leadership of Solidarity didn't like me because, I was more Orthodox Trotskyist, and excuse me, I didn't go for the identity politics. I was kind of sardonic, ironic, and they hated that. And the other wing, the Maoist turned liberal, which a lot of Frizzo, I guess, ironically is now. Certain people in Solidarity and later in Frizzo, just fucking hated me because, I was the white penis devil. And, I was like, fuck the imperialists. I don't want a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I just want to shoot these bastards. And, and, I don't believe in class conciliation, the theory of four classes, or whatever the Maoists call it. When we were debating, like, comrades in Indonesia. Anyway, details. But the guy who became the director of Labor Notes, I think it was after Kim Moody. Kim is I think, an honest right-wing Shachtmanite, and has written a number of books. And there was Mike Parker. He was the hatchet man for whoever's leading the IS right-wing Shachtmanites at the time. And, he's an electrician in Detroit for decades. Moved on to help this Green Party mayor in, whatever it was in California, with this other CWA activist for many decades and other activists for many decades. Well, a lot of this has to do with there are just organically, if you're a trade union activist and you get up to a certain level, you're going to be more conservative. You're going to be economist, as the Bolsheviks called it. And so that's on the one hand. On the other hand, people like you, Garland, I mean, you're basically Stalinist Menshevik. So, you were under Paul Robeson Jr. I mean, I have, I knew Stalinists in the CPUSA like that. I had relatives like that. My cousin Hal, really liked Hal. And there's so many people like that in the former Soviet Union. They generally tend to vote for the KPRF, but when the rubber hits the road, like I met one of these guys, the deputy to the KPRF in Yalta, February, March, and I sent him some photos of a highway accident, and it was right next to these highway laborers, and I was like, hey, look, buddy, in the name of Dzerzhinsky, you need to get a blocking truck out there. You need to make the capitalists pay their fucking taxes, set aside money from whatever they're stealing, and get some worker protection there. And he just freaked out, like, oh my God, you're posting this on Facebook. I'm more interested in, management, this or that. So, there's a class collaborationist, current, from the Stalinist Menshevik, your side as well. From the Stalinist Menshevik, whatever current, let's call it. But anyway, the Labor Notes director, I got passed over, I guess, for probably consideration for that. Because, I was basically with the Orthodox Trotskyists in the organization, pushing for, a more solid, accountable organization to, the membership. But, we were in the minority. I think maybe 30-40% of the organization was, basically pro, I don't know, was more principled, let's say, politically. But yeah, 60% of the organization were basically fucking, CIA asset liberal strokes in the end. And that became more and more and more apparent, as we went through the experiences of the Green Party and, basically the sabotage of Nader and populism in favor of, the Democrats and identity politics, and of course the Green Party was, penetrated by, these identity politics wanks, and, they were just, nasty, mean, petty pieces of shit, as were, probably, in the end, the leadership of Solidarity. But I wanted to say this director of Labor Notes for a number of years, basically my tenure in Solidarity. His background was Bohemian Czech, and just natural anti-communist, anti-Soviet. And I remember him making some remarks about the dirty Soviets or the dirty Russians, and I just was like, oh, whatever, dude. No, I don't think that, but. Because, my background was more Soviet Belaruski, Russian. As it turns out, I had relatives in the Russian government. And, they got more and more nutty as time went on with the 27 gender, Fruit Loop politics. As, the old generation of, right-wing Shachtmanite labor militants, died out, basically. And, what then? And actually a lot of people who came into Solidarity, a lot of them came in, for labor bureaucracy, positions, which I wasn't into. But you could see, they had more so than the CIA, they had the stench of, I'm going to collaborate with the labor bureaucracy. It's more, I would say, domestically focused, and that's basically Solidarity's, raison d'etre. Is basically, labor politics in the U.S. reforming. They do some good works. Labor Notes, the magazine, or a number of the reform caucuses, like in the Teamsters or the Teachers Union. That there are a number of Solidarity members, very active in that. And, I can't fault them for that sort of activism. So what? And then, the international stuff is sort of like an afterthought. It's kind of the reverse of what, say, someone like Caleb would do, or the Workers' World Party would do, which historically was more sort of like harder Stalinist, from a Trotskyist background. Yeah, I was kind of more in that orientation, I guess. And so I never really got along with these, strokes who were more anti-communist, basically, in Solidarity. And what else can I say? So after I saw them, basically supporting Grandpa Bernie to the hilt, like certain CIA relatives of mine, I was like, well, that's enough. No. You won't support Ralph Nader when he needs to be supported. You let these reptiles like Medea Benjamin or Ben Mansky, basically run over him. And then you go and you support, whoever they supported, Blagojevich or Tubby the plutocrat in Illinois through the Teachers Union, instead of Rich Whitney, Green Party, who I was backing, or instead of Ralph Nader, you don't support him when he was running as an independent, because, the Medea Benjamin, the other, CIA types basically stabbed him in the back, turned the Green Party to shit. But then you support Grandpa Bernie, in this like ridiculous run inside the Democrats. I mean, I guess, there's a debate, right? Like, maybe there's something to salvage, but I think, what was it, by the second run, forget it. That was just ridiculous. So by 2010 or so, maybe it's 2011, I fully checked out of the organization, just walked away and didn't go back. What else can I say? I guess I don't really have any contact I can really think of anymore with those people. I have like one or two of them, I think, on my friends list on Facebook, and one of them like unfriended me on Facebook, the brother of like one of the Mucky Mucks, who actually designed that website you were showing. So, So, a lot of people, actually, in like Palestinians, Palestinian Solidarity, Liberation, whatever work, they were around Solidarity, or, in the tangential orbit, I guess. We were all Frizzo, back in the day before they turned liberal. We were all involved in labor reform movement stuff. And what else? But the identity politics in the end, like, pretty much killed those organizations, and got them taken over by, they were vulnerable, and America's just a shit show of counter-revolutionary trash, especially since the end of World War II. All sorts of anti-communist scum have basically had outsized effect on American politics, especially if you're, whatever you want to call it, left liberal, populist, some sort of insurgent, this, that, or the other. It's sort of like you're talking about these Venezuelan scum who attack old ladies with bats now in Times Square. Um, oh God. Yeah, it's sort of like that, but on a more subtle, insidious scale. Yeah. I mean, I hooked up with a Greek babe once. She was a super liberal Hillary supporter. Very you know into the brothers and into R&B singing. I meet her cousin at one other time, and it turns out like the family were fucking Nazis back in Greece, and it's just perfect. Like Stravinsky too, he was a fucking Nazi, and then he was like, oh well, my great hero Mussolini got strung up. Well, I guess now I'll be a liberal, So that's what a lot of these scumbags are. Yeah, so you know whatever. If the American Communist Party gets any traction, and maybe if there's like a Bolshevik Leninist wing there, I don't agree with them 100%, but who agrees with any organization 100%? But if the ACP or whatever, if there are other currents that enter, perhaps, or other currents around them, I might join one of those currents. More Orthodox Bolshevik, let's call it. Historically speaking, yeah, I might join that, or who knows, might join the ACP as a sympathizer. If Jackson Hinkle and his beautiful hair, runs for president, yeah, I'll probably vote for him. So probably going to vote for Trump, though. Yeah, this election. I just learned I'm a resident now in Florida from the Michigan town clerk up there since I moved out of Michigan a good year ago. So, yeah, that's ironic. I'd like to, contribute to defeating the Democrats in Michigan, but, I guess I'll just be another voter for President in South Florida. Yeah, funny.